So when I first moved abroad, I was single, and at that time, nobody really liked me. Like, I tried all the dating apps and all the different kinds of online platforms and even in-person stuff, but nobody really liked me, and I thought maybe this has to do with my race. Like, everybody outside, all the women in this country abroad are racist, and there are racial stereotypes that prevent me from being with any other person. That's why they don't like me. But eventually, I grew up and I realized that how stupid this thinking and mentality was. The more I talked to women, the more I interacted with women, the more I learned about women, I tended to realize that there are genuine, actual concerns women have when they are thinking about dating or being with a foreign guy. So in this video, I want to talk about these concerns and these topics from the perspective of a woman. Now, I want this video to be a bit more general. So even though I am in Estonia, I've been living here for like 8 years, and I'm originally from Pakistan. When I say foreign, this means that I am talking about all the different kinds of people who are coming to Europe from a non-European heritage or ethnicity. Even this might include people from the US or people from Australia who are coming to Europe, even people from the UK. But primarily what I want to focus on Eastern culture. So for example, South Asia, Southeast Asia, China, India, Japan, Korea, Eastern culture, which is more family oriented and more traditional. And from that perspective, understand why women don't like men from that culture. There is, of course, a second part of this equation as well, and that is why women like foreign men, and that is a topic for another video that I will definitely make. Number one, and that is the most important, is you're a stranger. You are a complete stranger. You have no history in this country. You could be a serial killer. This might seem far-fetched. This might seem outrageous if you think about it from the perspective of a guy, but you have to understand that the most important thing in the mind of a woman is their own personal security and safety. Even if it is not at the conscious level, it is at the very, very core unconscious level of the women. It's how nature has made them. They're much more perceptive to threats or towards their safety. You have to understand that you are a stranger. You have no history here. There is no way for them to know, and the color of your skin is not the fact that they don't like the color of your skin. It might be possible that they do like it, but you're still a stranger. You're different from any other guy who has lived here in their own country, and this could be a very, very huge factor. Also, it is important to say that as a foreigner, they don't know if you are here or if you're going to stay here or if this place is your home. Are you going to stay here or you're going to move abroad at any time without telling them? So you don't have a stake here. You don't have anything of value here that you could not leave at any time. That is really important to understand from their perspective, that you are a complete stranger. They have to think about their safety and they have to think about their own security. So how do we overcome this as men who are in foreign countries? In order to overcome this behavior, first thing is that you have to be hyper vigilant and you have to be hyper observant. When you are interacting with women, you have to be very extra observant and careful that you don't make them uncomfortable. You have to assure them that these things, even though they might seem like superficial, like who you are, where you're coming from, what's your purpose here, these are the most genuine or important questions that you need to answer, or you need to show, or you need to portray right away, because these are running in the mind of the person when they're interacting with you. Note that we are talking about the first few interactions. It might be possible that if you are meeting someone for a much longer time, then these questions are already answered. Number one, most importantly, safety and security. You're a security risk as a foreigner. Number two, cultural comfort. You are from a foreign country that doesn't speak their language, that doesn't know about their culture, that doesn't know about their history, that doesn't know about their upbringing, their jokes, their inside stuff, even though you might know about them, like even though you might have read about them, even though you might know a little bit of the language as well. But still, there is a level of familiarity that is with another person if you are from the same culture. That is extremely important. That is so huge. I think this aspect is especially important if a woman or even if a guy is looking for a partner for long-term relationships, because it is very difficult to live a life. I mean, it has happened many times, but it is very difficult to live with a person of a separate culture if you are like very rooted in your own culture and you're not so flexible. So that is really important, that you know that you are from a completely different culture and from upbringing and from jokes and from food and from all these different kinds of aspects that have shaped the life of the woman. It has shaped your life in a completely different way, and it's very difficult to connect to them. Very, very simple example is, like inside jokes and language. Even if you learn the language at a very, very high level, I mean, it's these jokes and these things that you might not be able to get them. So that's very important to note. How to overcome it? I think the most important thing that you can do is to learn the language. If we are talking about particularly in the European context, for example, let's talk about Estonia and Finland or Sweden, then in these countries, it's very important that you actually learn the language. You actually learn to speak the language, learn at least the basics to make sure that you know something about the culture. And it is also helpful that you familiarize yourself with the most famous cultural influences that have happened in this country. So for example, if you're in Estonia, then read about how Estonia was formed, how Estonia has its own history, read about the most famous authors in Estonia. I mean, Lennart Meri is a really good author and who is also the first president of Estonia. Great guy. I've been fascinated by him for some time now. And then also tend to learn about their folklore and history and all these things. Remember to understand that in a way you're also doing that not just because you want to, make women like you, but you're also doing that because you have to understand the culture so that you can understand the people as well, not just the women. And it will eventually create a much better life for you if you are moving and living abroad. Genuine curiosity and interest in the culture of another person, that goes a very, very long way. Number 3, and that is you are too nice. You don't have a personal identity. I'm directing this more towards myself because I was exactly like that. I didn't have any personal identity. I didn't have any ego of my own. Why is that? If we talk about the Eastern culture itself, like South Asia or China, Japan, and all these Asian cultures, then we understand that our culture or overall overarching culture is sort of wrapped around the collective. It's not individual culture, it's a collective culture. We are particular about our religion, we are particular about our family, and religion are huge parts of anybody's identity. So much so that even for example, in Pakistan, when people are getting married together, it's not just a marriage of two individuals, it's actually a marriage between two families. So it is extremely important whenever these sorts of matchups are happening that the families also like each other, not just the people. So you can understand how tightly wrapped this whole thing is for a person. So for example, when a person from this collective culture comes to this culture, which is completely opposite, like European culture, especially Northern European culture, I would say Estonia, Finland, all these countries, which value individual liberty over all. Like you are an individual first and foremost. Nobody talks about your family, like who you are, it doesn't matter. Nobody talks about your religion, like yeah, get it out of the way. Nobody cares. I mean, Estonia is the least religious country in the world. So for the first time in your life, you are like naked. You have to be yourself. Like nobody will give you value because you have some kind of a status or you are related to somebody. And that means that you have to really start to look into yourself. You have to understand who I really am, what is my own personal identity, who I am really. And I can say for that because I struggled with this question for a very, very long time. I had to confirm, I had to form my own identity when I visited my own country. Being in this collective culture means that we are all very attached to our parents and family, and this means that we sort of turn into like these nice guys who are always appeasing because we're always so dependent on our parents. I mean, this is of course a longer psychological discussion that we can delve into that, but we are mostly like turned into like nice guys, tend to appease women. We tend to not show our true feelings, like who we are, even though like deepest darkest feelings. That doesn't happen that much. Talking particularly about the Eastern culture, this means that we don't have, or we haven't formulated our own identity, and that can be a huge turn off for a woman. Like a woman wants a person with an ego, but who knows who has an ego and who doesn't let that ego direct him. A person has to have an ego before he can drop it. So that is most important. You have to have your own identity. You have to formulate, you have to understand who you really are, regardless of whatever the society and the religion and your family or everybody has told you. This has been such a huge journey for me in my own life. It's necessary. It's important. It's the journey of life for a man that he has to do. So how does a man overcome that? Now, there are many different things that you can do. So, but the first and most important thing is you have to go on an endeavor. You have to start or for something. You have to strive in the direction of something and then find your identity in that endeavor. So for example, going to the gym is one endeavor. Like, it's one of the smallest things that you can do that will help you uncover yourself and understand yourself, who you really are. One of the things I also recommend is also going to dance, because you also tend to realize, okay, what are my preconceived notions about gender, and mixing with women and talking to women. And when you're in a partner dance, then it sort of really highlights it and it challenges you to confront these identities. Another activity that you can also do to start knowing more about yourself is journaling. Reading is a great activity, but you also should start writing about who you are, what you're going through, what your thoughts are, what is the thing that is most worrying you, so that you can look at that thing like after a while and then realize that this was the thing that was really worrying me, and I was basing my whole identity on this thing. I mean, this topic is huge. This topic is one topic that we can talk about for like 10 hours, but I am trying to summarize it here in a very, very short span of time. If you like it, or if you want me to talk more about it, please comment below and we can definitely have a really good discussion on this topic. Number 4, and that has to do with personal development. Now, in the previous point, we talked about that we have to sort of find our own identity. That the previous point that we also talked about is that coming from East, generally, like, this is a very gross generalization, but this is something that I've seen, that because we are so separated from individuality, we don't tend to take care of ourselves so much. Like, we don't care about our diet, we don't care about our outlook, we don't really care about our styling. I mean, particularly if you're talking about men. For women, it's a completely different thing, but for men, it's a very different thing. You would often see Asian men, beautiful women, men hardly taking care of themselves. Take care of yourself. I had no sense of grooming, I had no sense of style, on how to have an outlook, how to have your own style. And then also I had, it might be oversimplifying, but no physical strength. Like, a man should definitely go to the gym. Like, that is a very, very important thing. He should go to the gym and he should lift weights, because that in turn makes, or like develops all his life. Like, it sort of disciplines everything in the life that they have to do. These are the things that we don't tend to focus on in our culture. Like, for example, the Eastern culture, we are more, tightly wrapped on our collective identity, so we don't just sort of overlook these things all the time, because we have to worry about what the mom is doing, or dad is doing, or this relative is doing, and all these things. I mean, that is not to say that that collective culture is all bad. I mean, that collective culture is a huge safety net, not just for physically, but mentally as well. Like, it's a huge mental comfort, but it has its drawbacks, and we have to learn to understand these drawbacks if you are to maneuver as a guy in a foreign country. So, very important. You have to take care of yourself, you have to groom yourself, you have to form your own identity, because otherwise nobody will really like you, because they don't know who you are, because you don't know who you are. And number 5, and one of the things that has been told to me by many Western women, particularly about Eastern men, is that long-term prospects. As I mentioned before, that majority or some of the marriages that happen in Eastern culture are dependent on your family and religion, and these are like huge factors. If you are coming here and if you want, or if you like somebody, then this question will be on the mind of the women hugely, especially if you have gone past the first few interactions and she knows that you are not a threat, that you have your own identity, and if she's genuinely thinking about having a life with you, of thinking of you as an option, that this person can be the person that I spend the rest of my life with. But if you are going there with the intention that you don't want any long-term prospects, but you are not open enough to tell that to the girl, then it's sort of just, dragging them along. Because if you know that you have a family back home that will not agree to you marrying another person from a different religion, or someone with no religion, or marrying to a completely different culture, or it could happen that the other person, that family of the girl, they don't like the other person from another country, but that, I don't think that generally happens. It's very important for a guy to be very open and honest about their intentions from the very beginning. They have to be open and honest in saying that, okay, I have a family, I cannot marry any other person if they are not from the same religion. I cannot marry a person from another culture because, I have this, my family have this importance, and to me, my family is also very important, so I can't be with you in a long-term long-term relationship. Many men are very actually scared of that. Because of this scare, they don't tend to say it out loud. And it is only when a lot of water has gone under the bridge, they have to break it to the girl and the person, oh, sorry, I can't marry you because, yeah, my family will not agree to it. I think that is a very cowardly response. I think this should not happen. If you are aware enough to know that your family and your culture is so important to you that you will respect their wishes more than what the girl wants, then you should convey it right away, or then you should convey it at a stage where you have broken the initial ice. Tell the other person that you are not interested in a long-term relationship and that this is something that you cannot marry each other because all these differences can happen. Because of course, if you like a person and the other person likes you despite all these differences, come from a foreign land and you start talking to the other person and she likes you and she tells her family about that and she's excited about it and she tells her friends about that and all these things, and then you are dating for all these months and maybe years, and then eventually it happens that you can't get together with each other, you can't proceed to the next level, you can't marry each other, because your family doesn't allow it. Why does this happen? Because things certainly didn't change overnight. So yeah, that is a very important thing. Please don't string along, and that, I believe, is a very huge question in the minds of women when they are talking to other guys, when they are dating foreign men. This thought about culture and religion is huge. So if you are from a very conservative culture and background and these things, then the way to overcome this friction, as I said, first, be very upfront about this. If you know for sure that this cannot happen, then be very upfront about it. But if you know that this can happen and you're going to stand your ground and you're going to make sure that you two are together and you're willing to bring your family on board, not totally cut them off because that is not right as well, and you're willing to struggle for it, then you should be very upfront and honest with the girl about this as well. Yeah, that is really important, that you are upfront and honest about your intentions, at least at the time when you see this thing getting more serious. If you are from an Eastern culture and you're coming to, of course, a Western culture. To summarize, as a guy who moves to another country, who moves to another culture, if you are single, then it provides a lot of opportunity for you to explore different things, to explore and understand who you really are and your own identity and all these things. And on this journey, you will find many other people. You will find companions, you will find friends. You have to understand that even though there might be a component to who you really are, or your skin color or your identity or your race or your ethnicity, it is only for a very, very short time. I really do believe that it shouldn't take more than 2 or 3 interactions with somebody to alleviate of all the misconceptions that they might have about a person. I don't think it should take more than that, because these are only skin deep. The more important thing for any relationship, especially for women, is long-term security. It's for women is actually this aspect of finding a companion that fulfills her, and she in turn fulfills the other person. We are, despite being from many other different countries and culture and all these things, we are way more alike than we are different. But it takes time, it takes effort to overcome this ice, that initial ice we have built throughout all this time. Hopefully by watching this video it would have made you more appreciative of what women think and what they have in mind when they see you as a foreign guy and as a foreign person. I would really like to see comments down below. What do you think about this video and all these topics? This video is generally more directed towards a broader audience rather than the audience I usually have, which is just Estonian and people who are coming to Estonia. I hope you like this video and what I talked about, and maybe if you want me to talk more about it, or if you want yourself to talk about it, then please write in the comments below and maybe we can talk more about it. I wish you all the best. Thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.